All right, season 2, episode 3 of Keeping Craft. We are sitting here at Lionbridge Brewery. Tap room is about ready to open in about an hour and a half or so. And as you can see, we have a lineup of beers we're going to try with head brewer owner Quinton McClain. Thanks, Quinton, for having us come in, man.
My pleasure, guys.
Appreciate it very much.
Yeah.
Barrel Age January coming up. We're going to talk about that here in a second. Quinton, can you just kind of touch base about how Barrel Age January came to be? It's like the worst month in Iowa, and you guys have made it not only tolerable, but like desirable. Let's bring on January so we can get some awesome stouts.
So in would have been like I think right before we opened, I was able to get some brandy barrels from Cedar Ridge, and I got them in I think like February of 2014, and we opened in March, and so I brewed a wheat wine and filled them into these barrels without, really any knowledge about, or like when we were going to pull them out or anything like that. And it got to be, November of that year. And I was like, oh God, January is going to suck. Like, I didn't really think about that. Not being like a restaurateur by trade, I was just, and kind of running around with my head, like, just 10 feet above my body for most of the year, just trying to like run a new business, just trying to figure things out. It got to be November, December, and I was like, oh my God, what are we going to do? So I decided that, and I had filled up some other barrels in the meantime and decided we were going to do this thing. It was going to be very small the first year, but make a few variants of this wheat wine that I brewed, and then release it in something called Barrel Age January, and release like a new beer every week. And so that was kind of the first incarnation. We probably only had about maybe 50 gallons of each beer of, I think, one beer a week, maybe two, and that was it. And it was huge, and like it was cold. And I remember like we had it was a really cold year too. And people were posting pictures of the temperature and coming and trying the beers. And it was really fun to do, just as a way to get people out and keep the business going, and also just give people something exciting to do in January when it's so cold.
So this would be year number
would be seven, right? So what was 2015?
Okay, 2015
was the first year.
All right.
So now it'll be 2022.
And do you feel like more pressure every year coming up with your lineup because it's gotten better and better?
I think,
better
and it's fun. It's fun because we're looking farther ahead.
Yeah.
We're filling up barrels now with some of the strongest beer we've ever done. That we don't really have a plan for, but we just know like we have these fun stout recipes that we're brewing that are going to be like 13, 14% alcohol beers that we're just putting in barrels, and we're like, well, it might be 2023, it might be, it might be later, we don't know, but just, we know we want to do them, and so we're kind of committing space and time and dollars to getting something that we have like a lot of like options and a lot of things to choose from, and we're kind of thinking, maybe it's time to look at a home baked variant of some sort, or like what we would do there. So that's been a really popular beer for us. Gazprom, obviously, took a JBF medal in 2016, and that was for maple beer, and so that was a great win and something fun to do. So that beer, like, while I think tastes have changed, we've also seen like the advent of like this. Gazprom has always been a more traditional imperial stout.
Sure. When
we first started brewing it, and now stouts are like they have to be super thick. They have to be like almost like
you have to have an adjunct of
they have
some
to be gravy
sort.
and rest. And this was like this was barrel and some like just maple syrup poured into the barrel and fermented in the barrel, and that was like the gist of that beer. And so it got dry, it dried out, which now I think like people like that beer. Maybe it's coming back around as like a more drinkable imperial stout, if that can be such a thing.
Absolutely, yeah.
But we've done some variants on that Gazprom, and they've all been fun. And it's fun to look at new options for that. And we have tweaked the recipes a little bit over the years. So
I just had a caramel pecan last year.
Oh yeah,
I just had one of those not too long ago, and it's still holding up really, really well.
Yeah.
When it comes to the barrel aging process, as far as the style of brewing, all of your beers are a labor of love, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But can you touch on what are some of the biggest contrasts, some of the biggest comparisons to how you brew your core beers?
Yeah, I mean, there's usually the recipes are much bigger. The brew days are a lot longer, depending on if we're doing like a double mash for a single boil. So that's where you put an R mash down, we max it out at like maybe 1,100 pounds of grain, where a typical like comp is like 500 pounds of grain. So not only does it use about double the amount of barley, but then you're only yielding about half the yield. So then you do that twice again. So you're getting basically sugar water or wort that is twice the strength, and then you're boiling it a lot longer. So you're just concentrating everything, and so that's much higher input costs, and then barrels, and then time. So with Comp and those beers, they're with the brewery that when I built the brewery and designed it, it was designed for pretty quick turns because I knew we were going to be a small brewery. We needed to make beer fast.
Yeah. So
that's why it's a little more traditional kind of English style stuff. Even though we just brought in a few lager tanks, which is pretty cool, so that we've been able to expand our offerings and have a little more space to do that.
Sure.
But we were always designed to turn beers in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
We'll talk about the difference between a lagering pumps the time it goes. We're going to crack the 2022 home baked here in a minute. We're going to take a little sip. We'll be back in a second. Our glasses will be full, and we'll be cheers into that. So
we'll be smiling wide too. You better believe that.
Stay tuned. Cheers. All right, everybody, we're back, and as you can see, we have Quinton's been nice enough to set us up with a little vertical. Home baked. I don't know. I'm hoping that most of the viewers have been able to try home baked. It's probably it is one of my favorite beers of all time. Yearly, I've been in line when it's been cold, waiting on a Wednesday, calling in sick to work on a Wednesday afternoon to get in line to try this beer. But so we have 2021, or sorry, yes, right?
2022.
2022. What do we have?
In the future, it's a future beer.
It's a future beer. We have
2022, 2021, and 2020.
Okay.
So 3
lined
years.
Up in front of us. We have 3-year vertical. We're going to talk about as people do a vertical, and with this beer in particular, because you do have hazelnut, cocoa, cinnamon in it. What can you expect the flavor profile to look like as do you start with the newest and work your way down, or does it?
Yeah.
What do you think?
I mean, well, you know whether or not you can tell. There's different. We age it in different barrels every year. This year was Willet. The previous year, I'd have to look back. Honestly, I don't remember. But the barrels have changed a little bit every year. Whether that anyone can discern the difference there, it'd be hard. And it's my beer, and I feel like I would still have a hard time telling. But I mean, there's going to be oxidation. There's going to be probably whether that degrades flavors or enhances it with oxidation. It's hard to tell in stouts like this. What's going to happen. Cinnamon tends to stick around pretty well.
Okay.
And the chocolate too. Whether the hazelnut sticks around or not, that's I'm not totally sure.
Gotcha.
But I mean, I think the only thing to do is try it and see what you guys think. I'm if
do you have a big cellar at home of all your stuff?
No, I don't. I don't. I have a few cases of various things at our warehouse where we have most of our storage of packaging supplies, but I don't have
cases. And where is this looking?
What's the security? A long time ago, I used to have a lot of bottles, and then I still have bottles of the first beer we ever packaged, which I should have brought, which was our anniversary, a Bier de Garde, which
nice.
was a Belgian beer. I don't think, and that was 2014 or 15 when that came out.
I remember that one.
It's a great beer.
Flip top, right?
Yeah, it's flip top bottle.
Flip top. I remember that.
You mentioned different barrels for each of these. How do you decide? And where do you discover different barrels to use? I'm sure you run across many, but
I mean, sometimes it's kind of what's available.
Yeah.
We look for them typically in groups of 6, because 6 is about. Though with some of these longer boil beers, we're only getting 5 barrels, so 5 full whiskey barrels or bourbon. So usually I look for groups of 5 or 6.
Yeah.
So it's kind of maybe what I can find. Price does come into play because some of the barrels can get quite expensive. You're looking at $200 plus for a barrel, and you need 12 of them. It adds up, and so sometimes you're looking at what's available and price and something fun to do.
Yeah.
And I've had definitely had some barrels that have been had amazing kind of expression of a flavor that I didn't expect. Like we did a beer that I think you remember, Gobble Wobble, that was like a Imperial Brown Ale that had this amazing coconut flavor that was just out of this Wild Turkey barrel, and I've been kind of chasing that ever since. And we've had Wild Turkey barrel aged beers, and I haven't got that same thing. But I think we've got to make that same beer again and put it in Wild Turkey barrels. So that's on my list.
That was an excellent beer.
But it's hard. It does sometimes depend on what you want versus what you can get.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah.
Let's try it out. Let's start with the most recent one.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers. Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
My pleasure.
Yep.
So it's the same recipe as it's always been. Same dosing rate of everything. A little longer boil time in this year, so to try and just concentrate things a little bit more. But the aroma I think is pretty spot on.
Yeah, this is what winter smells like to me right here. My God, wonderful.
Yeah, so
all flavors.
But for somebody who's never experienced barrel aged beers before, this home baked would be their first coming in.
Yeah.
In January. Can you? What are some tips to get your foot wet?
Yeah.
To start off. Any advice for those?
I mean, stouts can be like, they can kind of be a little surprising. Like a lot of people still look at a beer as like a unit of, this 12-ounce unit is a beer. Like a Busch Light is a beer and a home baked is a beer, but they both come in a 12-ounce can. But obviously, one is like 11% alcohol and one is 4 or something.
Yeah.
And so it's sometimes hard to wrap your head around that this beer is is like essentially drinking one of those is like drinking like a half bottle of wine.
Yeah.
Right. So that's something, just being conservative with the volumes that you consume, but also like knowing that the flavors you're consuming are probably going to be a lot more intense.
Yeah. And what you do great too, Quinn, is the ABV, as you said, was what, 11.2?
Yeah.
Well hidden. Yeah. I mean, it's not hot.
Yeah. And I think it sits in the barrels for a while. That usually mellows it out.
It's extremely drinkable for a big stout.
Done an incredible job again.
Well, thank you. But yeah, it's interesting to see, across the years, kind of. I think first time we made this beer was for 2019. So I'm not sure. I don't know if I have any of those left, but
that was my 2019 beer of the year, I believe.
Yeah, good choice. Yeah. So yeah, the next one, the 2020, right? No, it's just 2021.
Yeah.
I always get confused with, we always can it in like December of the year before, and then it releases. So the date code is always the year before.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah.
Coming from somebody who brewed the beer, what do you notice when you smell, when you taste 2022 to 2021?
Well, I will say we've had like Aaron and Mark, who are doing most of the brewing now, and Daniel. They probably brewed this. I honestly don't remember.
Good point.
It would have been, and it's cool. It's cool to see, like, one of the things that I'm proud of is like creating a system that like we can, make beers, like whether that's comp or some, a core beer, make it taste the same. Yep. And that's hard. I mean, it's not for a brewery our size. It can be quite challenging. But I think like we just won a GABF medal with our. This is a side note, but we just won a medal with our GABF Porter Disaster Mu, a silver medal. And that was like a huge victory because that's a beer we made, and like that was a beer like we won a gold medal in 2015 for that beer, and that was back when I was brewing everything, and so to win a medal again when I did probably never even touched the brew house when that beer was being made is like a testament to like an awesome, like a great team and like being able to like replicate stuff. So to me, that's really really proud of that on a tangent. But this home baked is definitely like it's going to change every year and like and I think having a vertical like this is fun. But I think people coming into these beers they expect some variation as long as like it's on point and like tastes good and like is hitting all those notes. I think people are okay for like.
I think this is the beer though. I see
incredibly strong.
The lineup you're starting next Sunday.
Yeah, we've got a fun cellar beer we made back. We had one of the guys on our brew team, Robert. We made what I called an Adam beer. We didn't really know what to call it. It was just a big strong stout that we threw a ton of cherries in.
Okay.
And so it had some more acidity. And we called it an Adam beer, which I think is like it's like a really strong German beer that nobody makes anymore. So I wanted to deem it that style just because it was like obscure. So that one's called Big Smoosh, and so we have one keg left of it. We're gonna do add even more cherries to it and do a firkin for Sunday.
Next Sunday.
January
2nd.
Sunday, January 2nd. Like
awesome.
Sour cherry imperial stout barrel aged.
So
really good.
Quick side note again to what you just mentioned about Disaster Mu. Did you say you just recently won?
Yeah, this last year. Yeah.
Congratulations.
So, thank you. Yeah, it was we had a bit of a dry spell, which was really scary and sad. But I mean, it's one of those things where you're making good beer, and sometimes the stars align and you win a medal. And so it was easier for me, to not win, like after having like great success early on.
Yeah.
But knowing that our beers were solid, and I knew they were solid, and like they were doing well, and people loved them. But like you would still want to win, and so it was it was nice to like get a medal this year.
How great is it
recognized
to win for comp? Was it gold? The first year?
Yeah, first year out. Just just about like 4 months into being open.
That is your beer. That is what Lionbridge is known for.
It was the first beer I ever brewed here. It was batch number 1.
And how, I mean, what was the? You had to be elated, man. That would be such a great feeling.
Well, like that. So like, I thought a long time about what the first beer I was ever going to brew here, because I felt it was going to be like a symbol of what Lionbridge was. And like, so Comp as an English mild was like a beer, and I saw there was another brewery out of Illinois, and I think it might have been their first brew too, was an English mild, and it was two brothers out of Illinois, and I was like, that's a great first beer to make, because it like symbolizes like pub culture, it symbolizes people getting together, it's like that third space, like the place that's not home, it's not work, it's like the place where community comes together, and I felt that style of English mild really embodied that pub style, or that kind of like that community aspect that I wanted Lionbridge to be, and so like I felt like that beer was going to be like need to be batch number 1, and then it went on to like win, won GABF Gold, and then 2 years later won another one, and it was just like awesome, because like, and that set us up, to have great success with that beer. That people don't even know what an English mild is. Most people who love that beer, like that beer will be on tap someplace, and someone will love it, and like, but they probably don't know what the style is. They're just like, I like this beer, which is one of the greatest compliments I think.
It is. It's such an adaptable beer. Like my uncle lives in the Quad Cities. My dad, was a Coors Light drinker.
Yeah.
Though that beer is what they love to drink. Like they talk about, like this is. Yeah. It's almost like mind blowing to them. They could, they take a drink like, oh my god, the flavor just pops in their mouth.
It's great to like, now have it in cans. We just, and we're gonna can, like 400 cases of it on Monday, because there's just a lot of demand, and so
it's still such an underrated beer. It's so amazing. That's like, if you looking on the shelf, if you need something, that's what you can always grab. Dependable, wonderful beer.
Yeah,
ton of flavor.
I'd like to think so.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the medals.
Yeah.
So disaster.
Yeah.
Comp.
I mean, and those are great, for the team. Like, it's like good for us to know that recognition. No matter how much you believe in yourself, it's always good to have like a double blind competition recognition of that you're doing a good job.
Being judged against your peers.
Yeah, and so like and it's one thing to sell beer, and that's awesome too. Like, you obviously have to run a business. It's really nice to also get the recognition once in a while, whether it comes from a medal or even just like a nice compliment from someone who likes the beer. That's a pretty big thing too. So,
and next year, like, you're so busy, you're going to send me to go to GABF instead.
Yeah, no, you're going to go and. Wait.
This is a verbal contract. This is on film now. So nicely done there, Ben. You snake.
Thank you. I'm going to take a sip of
all expenses unpaid.
There we go.
I'm going to talk to Anna. Maybe she can hook me up with something.
That's the kicker.
She might. I don't know. We'll see. Yeah, let's do it. Let's go.
Oh yeah.
We'll set up a booth.
Keeping the craft on the road.
Yeah.
There we go.
Love it. Hey, Ben, you never
know. Right off, man.
This show takes us right to the top.
I'm going to sip on 2019.
Yeah, 2019. Ice had some, yeah.
Yeah, right on.
They all, like, even the 20, or no, it's 2020.
2020, right?
Yeah,
sorry,
it's still good.
Still very good.
Absolutely. I mean, I do notice, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't know, just off my palate, it does, you get a little bit more of the booze, I feel like here.
Yep.
Yeah,
okay.
And it could just be a variation in the beer, it could be the barrel.
Yeah.
I think, like that little heat from the cinnamon, we make other beers that use cinnamon and they use a higher concentration. This one, I think it's noticeable. It adds some heat, like a little that kind of
heat's
little
the best
fire.
word for it.
It's not a cinnamon here is not a boozy heat, but there could be boozy heat in there too.
No, yeah.
But that's one thing that I think holds up well across the years. And we haven't been making it long. Some people, they might ask how long they can save it, and it's like, I mean, we've been making it 4 years, and I feel like it holds up. It just depends what you're looking for. But I also think, we make beer to be drank now.
Yes.
So like, I don't really want to put a beer out that someone has to like put away for years before they can drink it because it's too boozy or something like that.
Sure. I think the beer geek in me, the advice I would give is if you're into aging or barrel aged stouts, buy one to drink right away, buy one that you can sit on.
Yeah, and then you can experiment.
Which, if you're in my case, buy one to drink right away, buy one to sit on for maybe a week, and then you drink that one again. So
really develop.
See if there's any change. See if there's any variation in the week.
Exactly.
Oh, I get it. Yeah, I totally taste it. Yeah, there's totally a difference.
Huge difference.
Amazing what aging does.
Mind blowing.
You gotta come back.
Yeah.
Restock. My gosh.
All right, we're gonna finish this beer, and we'll be back. Try a couple others. I mean, we got a treat lined up here for us. I mean, this is amazing.
Yeah, I wish we could have them all out, but there's a few that are still in the tank.
Still in the works.
Yeah.
We'll be back. All right, we're back. Got another beer that Quinton just popped, and you can see how lively this bad boy is here. We have Fragaria here. This is going to be, what week are we on for that one, Quinton?
What week is that? Let's see. That is
January 20th.
We're on the back nine.
We're jumping around a little bit.
That's okay. That's all right.
Yeah, we're jumping around the month.
No, January 20th, this is coming out. Tap, and as you can see, bottles and how lovely these labels. So, who does your labels, Quinton?
So we work with a company out of Des Moines that we worked with from the beginning, and they 818, and they do excellent work for us.
Man, I love it.
I've always been happy with.
When it comes to the main logo, is that collab between?
Well, so the main logo actually was done by my mom.
Oh, awesome.
My mom did it, and so she's an amazing artist. We have had to modify it a little over the years because I don't know, the original logo was a lot more of a sketch, like a hand drawn looking lion, not unlike what it looks like now. But in order to make the logo, the things you don't think about, making the logo big, making the logo small, how to do embroidery, how to print, so how designers will fill it in on a poster and butcher it. So you have to think about all that stuff, and so we had to modify the logo a little bit to be more user friendly by people. And so that we still the original logo. I still love, but it's one that we had to tweak it a little bit to work now. With. But yeah, so otherwise, most of our label designs, 818 has done a great job working with. I can't draw stick figures, but I often have a pretty good idea of what I want a logo to look like. Yeah. So as long as I can communicate that well, I feel like we can come up with designs that work really well.
So let's talk about this beer a little bit. We have another farmhouse ale.
Yeah,
which you make amazing farmhouse ales, and if you're a beer geek, beer nerd, and you are like traditional styles, when Quinton's brewing one, you got to come try it. Sylvia, it's probably the best beer I had all year long. I loved it so much. Thanksgiving dinner table full of empties of that one. That was the beer. So can you tell us what went into the Fragaria here?
So this is a spelt beer base that we put into old sherry barrels that had been passed through with different types of sour beer by another brewery, a friend of mine, and I won't say from where, but we got those barrels from them. We pitched our spelt beer into them, and then we put I think. In 6 total barrels, we did 3 different types of Brettanomyces, which is kind of wild yeast strain. So they had different flavors. A lot of times, tropical fruit, little funky characters, and so that's kind of what we were going for. And that's why I like to break up barrel aged January. Stouts are kind of what usually people think of, but I kind of like to break it up and do. I feel like every year, even from the beginning, we've always done something. I did a white port barrel with Iron Lion one year, and that beer was awesome. That was back before we were packaging anything, but I always tried to break it up with something that's not a stout, just for people maybe who don't want a stout, or just to showcase other stuff you can do with barrels.
Sure. Yeah.
So, and this is one of those things where we had this base beer in the sherry barrels, pitched with a couple different types of yeast, and then we picked a blend, put that together. It rested on some strawberries for just a week and a half. Okay. And then we packaged it with fresh yeast and sugar, for carbonation, and then kind of let it mature in the bottle. So it obviously got really lively. So you can see a good dense foam. It's kind of fun to see that bottle so alive. I mean, I think the beer is still pretty young, and it wasn't super cold, so that's probably why there's a lot of.
So is this considered a bottle conditioned beer?
Yes.
So bottle conditioning, we were talking about aging before.
Yeah.
Very similar as far as this. As this sits, it's going to develop more things that you really have no control over.
To an extent, we don't have any control, and that's why maybe we can calculate what we think the carbonation level is going to be, but we didn't totally know what the strawberries would add. They might have some fermentable sugars that maybe make the carbonation a little higher, or the flavor profile changes because the Brett kind of gets a bit reactivated in there and starts like, chewing on some more sugar. So it's kind of fun to do those beers. There's a little less control, which is kind of fun as long as it turns out well.
Yeah. Right.
And that's how beers used to be made. You didn't have this, what we do with a lot of these beers where, and in most breweries in the country, you will dial in carbonation by injecting like your food grade CO2 to like reach a carbonation level that means it will pour well out of your can and it will pour well on draft, that you can control it. Which makes a lot of sense, but with these beers, the goal is maybe like let go a little bit, but create something that is gonna develop its own personality over time. And that's what's kind of fun with this. And the Sylvia, that beer was also like bottle conditioned. But I think that traps in a lot of like when you make beer and you carbonate or just in fermentation, you're potentially scrubbing out a lot of like aromatics. Like there's a lot of things that are very volatile in beer that can go away and you can lose them. But when you do a carbonation like this, you're pretty much locking everything in. So
right.
like if it's like a really cool nuanced flavor, you might, if you are doing the forced carbonation method, you might drive some of that off. But with this, you're locking it all in. So you can create something that's like totally unique. But this is really, when this first carved up, I thought like there was a little bit of like a plastic, like what they call like a phenolic character that I was like kind of a little scared of, but it's gone away, and like it's kind of got this nice, slightly green strawberry, like tart, but like there's some
dry, delicious.
Super dry, super dry.
It's delicious.
It's super dry.
Very good.
Something we strive for in the show is trying to kind of have something for the biggest beer lover, the biggest fanatic, but also for those that are trying to learn as well. Try to bring a little plain English to the whole situation too, to help out in that regard.
Yeah, I may not have been speaking that. Sorry.
No, I think you did. Actually, I wanted to commend you on the fact that I think you did a great job breaking down. You may have already pretty much done a lot of answering there, but can you explain a little bit more about the fermentation, about Brett, about things that go into making this beer a success?
So I mean, Aaron and Mark in the brewery kind of spearheaded this a lot. Just to source the Brett strains to use, like and kind of like take on that project with like keeping everything organized in the barrel, in our barrel, our kind of barrel room, and keeping everything separate between like beers like Gazprom and beers like the Fragaria.
Sure.
So as far as like, I guess you're asking about like yeast and things like that, or what you use.
Yeah.
I mean, so we don't want to incorporate like Brettanomyces, these strains of yeast. We don't incorporate them into our everyday beers because they tend to get really dry. They tend to chew up a lot of sugar, so like the beers get really dry, and also they're a little less predictable maybe, and they also kick off flavors that are like stronger than maybe we want in compensation.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
And it's also like wouldn't be to style. Whereas in something like a Belgian beer, I don't know. I wouldn't necessarily consider this a Belgian beer, but I consider it more of a rustic kind of what they call like a farmhouse beer.
Sure.
And I don't know what that necessarily means, but I tend to think of it as like a beer that you would make in like a more classic fashion that, would be utilizing ingredients that you would maybe find on your farm and methods that maybe you would do more traditionally, like bottle conditioning.
Sure.
But it's fun to like using these yeasts, and that is definitely more to style Brettanomyces, and also making that blend I think is like a little more rustic, a little more fun.
Is this your favorite kind of beer to brew?
I don't know. It's one of my favorite.
It's
I'm definitely more of a dry beer drinker. Like I love stouts are really fun in smaller quantities, and I like them. But I'm definitely more of like Sylvia, that style of beer, like light, bright, refreshing, dry, very drinkable. Like our Bohemian Premium lager that we have, I love that beer. And I think if you talk to a lot of brewers, probably they tend towards like more drinkable, drier beers because, I don't know what it is about being around beer all day, but you don't necessarily go and crack a giant 12% stout at the end of your day.
Yeah.
So that I tend to think of this, it's like shifty style beers. The beer you're going to have after your shift tends to be something like this. It's dry, this is like 6% ABV, so I would say not super low, but also in a range that you could have a tulip of it and be pretty happy.
I was sitting here probably a couple months ago now with Travis Lang, shout out.
Oh yeah, he said he might stop by. I don't know.
Oh really?
I'm not sure.
Do we want him on camera? From the rafters.
Out
of nowhere.
Yeah, he'd dropped down. I'm not sure.
Could you imagine?
Yeah.
Actually, it would be perfect. But yeah, so we're sitting here drinking, and we were looking at the board, and the contrast of styles that you bring. Whatever beer you like, you can come here and have something that is for you.
Yeah.
Light beer, dark beer, sweet beer, IPA, hazy. I mean,
is that purposely done with that?
Like it was across the board, almost every style that you could think of.
Yeah.
Was available.
Talk about community. I don't know. Does that play at all in terms of trying to bring something that maybe there's something for everybody here?
Well, and I think I like a lot of different styles. Like, to be, like you can find great success being a hazy IPA brewery. Like, there's no doubt. Yeah. I've been in some where it's like the whole list, it's almost comical, and that it's like 10 beers and it's just you're rotating the hop varietals around. And that, but like you can do very well, like running a business like that. But like for me, I like, give me a plate. Like if I walk into a brewery and they have like an alt beer and they have like a Kolsch, or they have like a nice lager, and then they have like a farmhouse Brett beer, and I'm like, hey, this is kind of like cool, to have a breadth of styles that you can produce. Like is fun for me in a brewery. Like I came in the other day and I looked at the tap list and I was like, this is like, there's like 5 beers that I would love to drink right now. And I'm not saying like I haven't had that experience through the years, but I feel like, it's fun also to have the guys on the brew team now that are like, let's make, these, let's do a dark Czech lager. We haven't done one. We should. And of course we should have in Czech Village. I don't know why not. But I would say like it was my idea to do the smoked Helles, and they were a little skeptical of that. But I was like, I've always wanted to do like a smoked Helles, and so we made it. And now they're believers in how good that style of beer is. So they were skeptical. They were skeptical at first. Yeah, we're making it again. It'll be out in probably not till like mid to late February, but this is just one of those lager things. It just takes a lot of time.
Yeah. We might talk about lagers here in a little bit too. We got 2 gas proms we're gonna check out.
Yeah, we should crack this.
Want to talk about your distro thing?
Oh yeah.
As we come back, but we're gonna take a quick break and we'll be back with Quinton and a couple more beers. All right, we're back, and we have some gas prom beers we're going to try.
Yeah.
We have the 2022 gas prom. We have a new gas prom to the lineup, Monkey Tail.
It's called the Monkey Tail. Well, I went to the local Tasty Freeze this summer, and I saw
that's where all great
they had
things start.
Well, that's where like any brewer gets their inspiration. Right? It's like you got a slushy. Oh, I could just make that into a beer. Blue raspberry. Oh yeah, that could be a beer.
Done deal.
Well, and so I was like, well, there's a thing called a Monkey Tail, and I don't know, maybe it's like I guess it's like a childhood treat I never had. But I had it, but I never knew the name of it. It was like basically a banana dipped in chocolate, and so I was like, let's do that in beer form. And then because we were on our way out to the Craft Brewers Conference in Denver, we drove out there with our team and we were brainstorming what we want to do with our beers for Barrel Aged January. And so we came with this idea of like Monkey Tail Gas Prom. And so it was like take the Gas Prom, it's barrel aged with maple, but then like the maple kind of once you start adding other stuff, you don't necessarily get the maple anymore. But so we wanted to do bananas, and then there was a source we found for like single origin cacao nibs, and so there were these Ecuadorian ones that sounded really interesting. So got a fair bit of that, and we tried this new gas prom variant called Monkey Tail.
And then the original gas prom, where do you get your maple syrup from?
So we get it from Great River, not Great River.
Okay.
No, what's it called? No, Jesus, I can't remember.
Great
River Maple.
Great River. You're right. Yeah.
Oh, well, there's Great River Brewing, but then I was like, is it also Great River?
Yeah.
Phil Botch, you might have to edit that. I'm sorry.
Hey,
hopefully they don't see this. And
we're guessing. How many beers deep now? I think.
Oh yeah. So yeah, we've each had like a 6-pack of these barrel agers at this point. So, but that's been So I ran into those guys. I ran into them at I think in 2013 or something. I ran into them at the food fair in Des Moines that was on the bridge, and I was like, how awesome is it? It was up in Northeast Iowa where their place is, and I was like, what a cool operation. And so we started getting maple from them and doing gas prom with that. And now we have a Vermonter on our team, Mark, and so he's a maple syrup connoisseur. And so
connoisseur or snob?
Snob, yeah. It's probably more the case, but he's got a lead on some maple he wants to try. So we might make another beer with maple to try his source. I feel like he seems to know a thing or two about maple. So.
I mean, the maple.
I think he grew up on a farm in the sugar bush, because I think that's the proper term for where the maple. The sugar bush.
I like it.
When you talked about inspiration, where you find it. Do you notice you seem to find it more just in your travels, your day to day, or
or like culinary experiences? I think. Well, they make there's like a joke and meme about brewers like in the candy aisle, and they're like, oh, this is like brewers getting inspiration for their next beer. I think like culinary experiences for me definitely inspire beer.
Love it.
Trying to and think about historic styles, styles that I've had like traveling around, or just things we want to recreate. What sells, obviously beers that sell really well are these beers that maybe mimic childhood treats of people who are in their like prime consumership years, like of some, it's your breakfast cereal you had growing up. We've done those and they're fun. I don't know if they're our bread and butter, but they're fun to try out and see if you can do them.
I think if any time you can hit on nostalgia for somebody,
nostalgia's huge for me too. Like
we're no different.
Yeah. So that's fun to do these beers, and maybe that's where the monkey tail thing came from. Is I was like, oh, dude, I remember having that as a kid. Let's try that out. Not super nostalgia, but it was like at the local ice cream shop, kind of seeing that and seemed like a good path to take for the variant. We've kind of tried to come out with a variant of the Gazprom every year. We've had the double maple, we had the maple pecan, and then this one this year, and I don't know where we'll go next year. The recipe for Gazprom has been pretty stable. We've changed. It used to be super smoky, or not super smoky, but a little more smoky. Because the idea was it was inspired by the Russian oil company called Gazprom. This was back, I think, in 2013 when I first brewed it, and I thought it'd be funny. Like it was supposed to be this like, kind of like big, kind of oily black beer. And it was supposed to, at that time for some reason, all over the news was news about Gazprom, the Russian oil giant. They were taking over the world or something. And so I was like, I
believe you guys had a T-shirt of
it'd be a great,
what's his name riding a
Vladimir Putin
riding a
bear.
There's a T-shirt available right over here. Come on in.
Yeah, it was a great shirt.
Top 5 shirt.
Yeah, I was afraid that Putin might come after me.
Come after us.
And I don't think that's what you want.
Did he have a shirt? Did he have his shirt off riding the bear?
Yeah, he did. His shirt was off.
Tattoos.
Yeah,
that's great.
He had
Still is great.
He had a Lionbridge tattoo.
That's brilliant. Love it. So brilliant.
Love it.
Let's talk about actually the original, the Gazprom this year. We have maple syrup, which we talked about, and you talked about smokiness earlier. Just a hint. Is that like cut it?
Yeah, smoked malt. We use like a beechwood smoked malt, like a German smoked malt that I've always loved. The same smoked malt we use in our Hellscape, the smoked Helles.
Okay.
Just to add like a little bit of smoky character to go with the maple. I always like that idea of like
so good
smoky maple. And it's not a huge maple presence, but that was never supposed to be like an overwhelming flavor. There are definitely maple beers out that I've tried now, whether people are using like unfermented maple syrup. It's just huge, huge maple, and that's cool. Like I think there's different takes on it. We ferment the maple, which tends to get a little more woody. Like it's a little more rustic, like of a flavor once it ferments. And we get like a really dark grade maple syrup. So like supposedly it's the last runnings, like right before the maple season is over, the sap that comes out is a lot darker and it's not as prime. Like it doesn't make your like fancy maple syrup.
Yeah.
But you boil it down and it's much darker. It has a lot more flavor and a lot more unfermentable sugar. So supposedly that contributes, not supposedly, but I think for our use, it contributed a lot more like of that oaky, like woody character that I thought paired well with the barrel, and then whatever else we had in there.
Gotcha. So recently, Lionbridge has kind of gone on a different endeavor. You guys are now self-distilling.
Yeah, it's a big move.
Big move.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about like what you need from the community, what you need from breweries, bars that could put you guys on the lines?
I mean, I think people have been super supportive. I think there were challenges with I think customers. We had challenges where customers wanted our beers, we had the beers, but our distributor wouldn't get them the beers, and that created challenges where it's like, you're down the street from a place. It's like, hey, like we want that beer, and you're like, I would love to get it to you, but like our distributor won't take it. So that was challenging, and it's laws are weird all over the country.
And I don't think the public realizes the different laws that go into.
And I think the show is going to be way too short to go into it. But
yes,
but that's a whole nother segment.
Yes, absolutely.
But yeah, like after it was an amicable end to the relationship with our distributor, and and I think it was for the best for everyone. It kind of sounds like you're ending a marriage or something.
Not you, it's me.
But it's not you, it's me kind of situation. But it's essentially what it's like, except, when you go into a contract with a distributor in Iowa, there is no out for you, you can't just like walk away. Like a lot of people will say like, oh, why didn't you just like leave? And it's like, well, it's not that easy. Like,
can't do it.
You don't really get out unless you, I mean, it's some kind of huge payment. Basically, it's not difficult to get out. You just have to have like some leverage your entire future with a payment to get out of it, and hopefully you're going to distribute enough to make your money back. And that's kind of that's the reality.
That puts you in a hole right away.
Yeah, but it's good. I mean, because just that freedom, even from day one. Like basically the day after we took our distributor rights back, I delivered 5 cases and it felt amazing.
God, I bet.
And it was great because I could just take it there. You know, they signed the invoice and I was like, that was awesome. You know, it was just like, otherwise those cases would have never got to that store because, you know, because a big distributor has to operate differently. They can't just take beer on whim, right? Whereas like I'm passing by that store on my way home. I can do it. You know, it's like, you know, it's not a huge stretch for me. And whether or not you can do that every time, I don't know. But on that, you know, at those moments where like people are like, you know, you try and develop systems where those fire drills don't happen. But it's nice when it does happen that you can get beer to those people, because if you don't, they're going to run out. And then someone maybe comes into the store on Sunday and they want to buy some of your beer and it's already out. So you're already like falling behind. Whereas if you can get them just a little, you know, if you can dial it in so they're getting on a specific day, but then, you know, you can add that extra customer service where if they need something, you can do them a solid. You know, I think that builds a lot of goodwill and it allows you to maybe, you know, like do more with that customer in the future. So
bars, restaurants,
everything,
grocery stores out there. You want Lionbridge? Contact them directly. Man. They're ready.
Just call me. Just
there it is.
Call my house.
You mentioned about the challenges that go into being a self-distributor. It's another one of those words where you hear it and you're like, that sounds like a dream job. God, give me a break. I'd love to go restaurants to bars, helping deliver my favorite beer, but it takes a lot of work to make that happen. And finding the right people for the right situation,
the time of the day
is huge. It's huge. So what has that process been like, finding the right individual to bring into the team?
Well, we've been fortunate like that we found, you know, someone with a lot of experience in this market, Brandon Hahn, who's had a lot of experience, you know, in like kind of this in the corridor for like I think 25 years. He's been here, and he's awesome dude. And then you know, and Travis has been a huge help too. And then also, jeez, maybe not. I don't know. And then we have a great
dude, love him.
This dude who he, you know, has been awesome. Noah, who just started with us. I think a month and a half ago. He's awesome because, you know, it's starting out. There's a lot of like, oh shit, I didn't think about that. So I don't know if I can swear now.
Absolutely.
I didn't think about that. Like I didn't see that coming. And people, you know, it's nice to have like people who are understanding of my imperfections and can kind of be like, we got to roll with it until we figure it out. We'll create a better system. Obviously, this was a mistake. Let's get through it and figure out what we need to do different next time.
So you were talking about community has seemed to be a theme with Lionbridge. I think one of the pillars maybe of this place, which is incredible. Why? I just want to know, why Cedar Rapids? Why the Czech Village? Why here? Why 2015? Throw us a little bit of history, if you wouldn't mind.
So I'm from Cedar Rapids originally. I grew up here. I left for about 10 years. Did a few things. Went to school. I started at a brewery out in Colorado, in Fort Collins, and but like after the flood of 2008, you know, like things were pretty destitute. I mean, it was rough in the downtown. Like, and I'm a firm believer in walkable neighborhoods and just being able to, like, you know, walk by a patio and see your friends, or like walk to stores. And my wife and I live, you know, like, you know, a 15-minute walk from Lionbridge. So, you know, we definitely are like fully embracing that attitude. And you know, I wanted to, you know, after working in a brewery for a while, what it felt like there was a prime opportunity here. At that time in Iowa, I think there were like 28 breweries in the state. Now there's like 128. So it's changed a lot. But this is from when we opened. There were like 28. And so, you know, like there weren't a lot of breweries, and there wasn't, you know, Cedar Rapids Third Base was here as a brew pub, and we were like, well, you know, we're going to open up more of the native style brewery, what they call it, where, you know, you're maybe, you know, you're selling direct to the consumer. You're, you know, more of like that, like a brewery tap room kind of look and feel.
Was Third Base the only place in Cedar Rapids?
Yeah.
No kidding.
That was the only place that had been open forever, probably since like the early 1900s. And a lot of people, like, you know, they do a great. I love the beers that Third Base has made out there. and they do some cool styles. Like, and but it's not usually on people's radars. Like even people who are like craft beer people don't necessarily know about their race, but they do great stuff. And so, but yeah, when we opened, was looking to make more of that tap room feel, that kind of like I experienced like in Colorado and just in traveling around seeing different breweries. So that's what this building was. I won't say it was like slated for demolition, but it was kind of moving down that path where it was. The Czech Museum actually kind of saved it from being bought up by the city. And once things got bought up by the city, it was kind of like a foregone conclusion that they were going to be torn down.
Yeah.
So we were able to buy it from the Czech Museum because they wanted to save it, but then they wanted to pass it up to someone else. It wasn't their idea to hold on to it. So long story short, we bought it. It was a crazy, very different building. The whole building was subdivided into like 4 different businesses. So. But we knew that underneath all the facades and like the drop ceilings, there was like this old grocery store, because this was originally built in 1939 as Fritz's Food Market. It was the first supermarket in Cedar Rapids, so it was the first place. Man. Supposedly, it was the first place you could shop with a grocery cart.
Oh wow!
In Cedar Rapids. So yeah.
So by the time you guys bought it, and by the time you opened the doors, what was the time frame?
We bought it in 2013, and then we were open. We closed the deal. We knew we were going to close the deal probably from like mid 2013, and then we were open in March 5th, 2014.
Wow. Okay.
So, yeah, definitely a quick turnaround, but we were ready. We had the plans all ready to go. We kind of knew what we wanted to do. We had a great team of people, and it was not like one of those things where like I installed the plumbing. Like we had people do that. Like that's not like it would have taken 100 years to open if it was me doing like plumbing. So, and we would have probably. It would not have worked. So we brought in like people who knew what they were doing. Like I know how to build a brewery and I know how to run a brewery, but I don't know how to like install the plumbing and everything. I know enough to be dangerous. I also know when to call people, that know what they're doing.
That's the difference. So Lion Bridge opens in what was pretty much, I don't want to say desolate, but there was not a lot going on.
There was not a lot.
In the Czech Village, and now it's busted. Like it's
when we were going to open. Sorry to interrupt you.
No,
when we were going to open. I remember I was at the Brewnost in fall of 2013, and they did a newscaster interview me that said, like, why are you opening here? Like, why aren't you in Nubo? Like that's where everything's happening. And I was like, dude, this is a great place. And there was like this great building that existed for our purpose, and it was just kind of shocking to me that a bridge, between these two neighborhoods could somehow be. Such a like distinct difference and
so close,
but there's
so far.
Yeah, but there's awesome stuff going over here, and and I'm not to say there wasn't some things back in 2014, but there's definitely different businesses now that I think are more like harmonious with what we do, like different restaurants, different shops. There's a cool candy shop that opened in the corner that my 5-year-old kid loves.
You got the chef,
Regina's
chef of the
awesome.
year.
Oh yeah. There's awesome stuff. Yeah, Sam, he does awesome. Sam and Phoebe are awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's probably there's amazing businesses on the avenue, and so I think this, like Czech Village is like one of the few places unless you're like downtown where there is like a pretty intact, walkable little strip of things to do.
Yes, absolutely.
And it's right by the river, and once the flood protection gets finished. We're going to sleep a little better at night. And then they're putting in like a really cool bridge project down the way for bicycles and walking that should be done. I don't know when, but there's definitely investment down here, and it's exciting to see.
It's going to feel pretty cool that you were a part of all the, not necessarily redeveloping, but just re-imaging
reignite
this area.
A lot of people said, I remember talking to like various people who thought it was stupid to invest in something down here, and maybe it still is, I don't know, because it's not the right demographics, or it's not, or people won't come, or why don't you open something up on the northeast side where there's like lots of parking, something like that. And I guess I didn't want to do that, and Anna, my wife, didn't want to do that, and we like saw this area as something that was more like where we wanted to be, or where we would want to be if we were people. And I think we are I'm 40, and there's probably a lot of correlation between, or people like people of my age who want the same things, and and they want to be able to. They will ride up a bike trail. People can come here, go do lots of other stuff, and I think that's cool. Like you can park and you can visit all kinds of things. And
well, the beauty about you and Anna too is how much you support.
We're just beautiful.
Local.
We're just
you're beautiful people.
That's the beauty of us.
You're completely beautiful people, absolutely. And I'm pretty sure a run for president in 2028.
No, it's Anna. Anna will do that.
Anna will do that?
I told her she should run for like city council.
I was thinking
yeah, she's great. What?
I was thinking bigger.
Yeah, she could do mayor. I think so. She would win. She just walked in. I don't know what happened to her, but I think she might have heard us and walked away. But that would not be me. I'm not. That's not.
But you guys are the epitome of supporting local businesses, community. You guys in the news for it. You do it. You don't just say it. You actually do it.
Walk the walk.
Yeah.
You walk. Yeah, it's perfect. But
it's tough to know like what like. There's so many things like we value in our community. Whether that's like we have like our core giving guidelines, which are which are like the arts, whether that's theater or or like visual arts. There's like the nature, whether that's like the nature center or kind of walkable like trails or neighborhoods or like replanting trees after the derecho. And then we also like have like like food security, which we work with Feed Iowa First. And those are like things that we really value, and we definitely, because there's so many causes, like so many things that we want to support, some things you can't, and so we try and like have like giving guidelines for what we really want to focus on with our events and with our time. So those are but we definitely like we live and work in our neighborhoods and our community. So supporting those is like critical to like seeing Cedar Rapids like progress and move forward.
No doubt. Before we go, talk lagering.
Oh yeah, so we are a really small brewery that we brew beer 10 barrels at a time, and we are not really built to make like tons of volume of lagers, because lagers take a lot of time. I talked earlier about compensation. We can turn that beer in like 14 days, and we love that, and it helps with our brewery size. But like making lagers, we really wanted to do it. We just didn't have the space or the time, so we managed to cram 2 more tanks in earlier this year. I don't know how we did it, but we just like moved stuff around, and I kept talking to like Mark and Aaron, Dan, and I was like, is this gonna work, guys? Like, are you gonna be okay? So we put them in places. We didn't hook them up. We just put them in places like empty, and we're like, all right, let's work here for like a week and see if like you're tripping over this, or you're gonna like. And it, we found a good spot for these 2 tanks, and they're not, it's not massive, but it allows us to like store beer in places that doesn't necessarily hinder us from making our regular lineup. Yeah. So we, beers like Hellscape and the Tamave, the Dark Czech Lager, and the Bohemian Premium, which is a golden lager. We just
Dynamic Chill.
The Dynamic Chill. Oh. That's a quicker turn. We were able to turn that one in that's quicker because it's a lager, but it's fermented a little faster. Okay. So and it's like a big hop addition. So
and that is now in cans and available. Cans. And it's an amazing beer.
Yeah, it's really awesome. I love that beer. That's along my favorite styles of like dry, super hoppy.
Absolutely.
Beer.
Delicious
beer. But yeah, so it's fun to do that, and we're already finding though that we're not able to keep up. Like the Bohemian Premium's been a huge draw, but we just can't make enough. So I'm not sure how to overcome that other than just run out every few. Yeah,
it's kind of nice though to have the demand there though.
It's great. I mean, they're fun beers. It's hard because like
a good problem to have for sure.
People expect them to come in at a price point that is like super. It's like comparable. It's a lager. It's a really standard beer. It's not something that has like tons of chocolate or all kinds of flavors, but it's just an awesome drinkable beer. Yes. But it's the time. It's hard to know. You have to make them like competitive on the shelf pricing. So
sure.
So we sell it. For $9.99 a 6-pack is like that's the best we can do. It doesn't beat a 6-pack of a Busch Light for. $3, but
I did see a 6-pack of Ham's Tall Boys for $3.99.
See, we just can't compete with that. There's no
tell
way.
You what, man.
That's pretty good price. Where's that?
Hy-Vee actually had a nice little special.
Nice.
Yeah, it's a hot deal.
Yeah, but we like to think there's some value in buying the Bohemian Premium. So
absolutely,
give it a try. I think
give it a try, guys.
Yeah. Well, Quinton, seriously, thanks a lot.
Can't thank you enough, Quinton.
Honestly,
thank you so much, man.
When I moved here in 2016, Ben actually took me here for like our first kind of debut to the city. So this was my first opportunity to try an Iowa brewed beer. And I've been coming back ever since. You guys this was my Chris Farley interviewing Paul McCartney on SNL moment. So I'm glad I didn't throw like that was awesome 15,000 times at you, but
this is falling crush the table.
Pile driver.
Well, thank you guys for coming. I really appreciate you visiting.
Barrel Aged January starting Sunday. This Sunday, January 2nd, they're doing a Firkin
sour cherry strong stout barrel aged.
And on Wednesday is the big day, home baked. Nobody gets in line before me, please. I won't be off work till 3:45, so just give me a minute.
Yeah, let them get there before
Homemade
you start
2022,
hammering them.
Wednesday, January 5th. And then every Wednesday after that with some things thrown in between.
Just find the calendar. You can find it on our website and social media. Check it out. Lionbridge Brewing.
Quinton McClain, thanks, buddy.
Cheers.
Appreciate
Thank you
it,
guys for coming down.
Boys and things
it's my
come
pleasure.
by the dozen. That ain't nothing but drugstore loving. Pretty little thing living like you count. Cause mama, I'm sure hard to handle now, yes around.